Evan, I hope you've all had a fantastic week. I hope you really enjoyed your first lesson on the role of the church in medieval Europe. I'm really excited about seeing all your doom paintings. Now, let's do a quick quiz on what you can remember from last week. So either take a new piece of paper or do it in the back of your books. And we've got 6 questions. So, question number 1. Who's head of the church on earth? Who did medieval people believe had been made head of the church on earth by God? Question number 2. How are things such as poor harvests or illnesses explained? In the Middle Ages, where did people believe these sorts of things had come from? Question number 3. True or false? Churches in the medieval period were only used as places of worship. So the only thing that happened in them were church services and prayers. Question 4. What language could priests speak that most people in the medieval period could not speak? They couldn't read it either, but lots of things would be in this language in church. Question 5. Those paintings on the inside of churches, they're really violent. They're designed to show people what hell was like and scare people. What were they called? What was the name of them? And the final question, question 6. What was the name of the tax paid to the church? You had to pay this. You could pay it in animals, you could pay it in crops, but everybody had to pay this. What was that called? Right, answer time. So let's see how many you got right. So who do people in the medieval period believe was head of the church on earth? That is, of course, the Pope. Things such as poor harvests or illnesses were often explained as punishment for your sins from God, God being angry with you. True or false? The church in the medieval period was only used for places of worship. Absolutely untrue. It was used for games, it was used for plays, it was used for fairs, it was used for markets, it was used as places to pick up the gossip and find out what was going on. The language that priests could speak, most people couldn't at this time, was Latin. And of course, those paintings on the inside of churches meant to frighten people are called doom paintings. And last but not least, the name of the tax that has to be paid to the church is called tithes. You had to pay your tithes to the church. So, add up your answers out of 6. How much can you remember about the medieval church? Worth making a note of that somewhere. Maybe in the margin so I can see it when you take a photo of it and you send it to me. What I'd like you to do then is, if you're working on paper, grab yourself some paper. If you've got your exercise book, put in today's date, whichever date you are doing this, and your title for today is A Day in the Lives of Monks and Nuns. So write that down for me. Today's work, there are 4 tasks on monks and nuns, on these people who decide that they want to devote their whole lives to serving God and religion. So task 1 is I'd like you to watch some video clips for me. All right, so if you can put a subheading, task 1. There are 2 attached videos on Show My Homework. Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to create a spider diagram. In the middle of your spider, you can put video. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to watch the videos, and not very long, and I'd like you to write down 6 legs to your spider, 6 things, bits of information about medieval monks and nuns that you got from these videos. And if you want to watch the video more than once, that's absolutely fine. They're there, they're on Show My Homework. You can access them. Now, once you're happy that from the video clips you've got your 6 legs to your spider, I'd like you to add in these 3 following words. It's up to you whether you put them in your spider, you add them to your spider, or if you write them underneath. And the 3 words are poverty, chastity, and obedience. Now, these are 3 vows or promises that monks and nuns have to make when they say they want to be monks and nuns. They've got to agree to do these 3 things: to live in poverty, to live in chastity, and to be obedient. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to find out what those words mean. So you can use a dictionary online. You might already know this. If you do, brilliant. You can use a dictionary in your house. And I want you to write down what these 3 words mean. What are these 3 promises that monks and nuns are offering to make? Task 2 is a little bit of working with evidence. So you've got on Show My Homework a PDF document that is called Term 6, Week 2. And I'd like you to read it as far as the diary of Novice Arthur. You don't need to read about Novice Arthur yet. Once you've done that, you've got 4 questions I'd like you to answer. And they're all based on the information sheet, okay, on the week 2, term 6 information sheet. And I'd like you to find the information and answer the questions. Now, you've got a choice. You can either write the answers out in full sentences, or if you prefer, write out the question and then bullet point the answer. But please, year 7, make sure that you are doing one of those. You're not starting sentences with because, if you haven't got the question written out, and you're not doing one-word answers. Well done. Tasks 1 and 2 done, year 7. You are fully becoming experts on the medieval monasteries and nunneries. So now we're going to read about Novice Arthur. Now, Novice Arthur was an interesting young man. He was 13 3/4 when he wrote this. And he'd gone into a monastery at the age of 7, when you could go in, willing to become a monk. So this is a boy, only a little bit older than you, who has decided he's going to devote his life to God. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to read his diary. I know you're not supposed to read a diary, but he's been dead well over 500 years, so we can probably make an exception. And I'd like you to answer the following questions. Now, again, get into the habit of this. You are either writing out the question for me and then answering underneath directly, or you are writing out the answer in a full sentence. It has to be one of the others, one of the 2, and there are 4 questions there. So this last task is about Fountains Abbey, which is a monastery that was built in Yorkshire in 1132. Now, there are some beautiful, beautiful pictures on the internet. If you just Google Fountains Abbeys, there are some fantastic ruins of the abbeys. There are also floor plans. You can see I've put a little floor plan on my PowerPoint here. Really big monastery by the side of a river. And for each of the following words I've put on my PowerPoint slides, I want you, first of all, to write down the words. And then next to the words, I want you to write down what would have happened in this place. So what would happen in this part of the monastery? What would the monks be doing? And you can see I've done the first one for you. So the cloister, these small cells, okay, small rooms where monks could pray in private, not with anybody else. I would like you to do the same for the next 5 words. So the kitchen, the abbot's house, the infirmary, the dormitory, and the almonry. So already we've reached the final task of today's lesson on medieval monks and nuns. Now, scholars, I am expecting you to do this, but you know Year 7. I would like as many people as possible to have a go at this task. Now, this scholar's task is a research task, and you've got a question. And the question is, what role did monasteries and nunneries play in medieval life? Were they important? Why? What sort of things did they do which added to medieval life? Now, I'd like you to do two things on here. Number one is it's a research task, and number two is it gives you a chance to be a little bit creative. So I've put 3 websites that might help you get started. There's a lot of information on these websites. If you want to go to any others, that's fine. There should be enough on those 3. And I'd like you then to decide how you're going to answer this question. Are you going to do a written paragraph? Are you going to do a spider diagram of all the different things that monasteries and nunneries did in medieval life? Are you going to draw a comic strip of what a monastery or nunnery could do? Is it going to be a poster advertising the monastery or nunnery? Or, if you would like to do something else, that's absolutely fine. Now, once your work is complete, can you either take a photo of it and upload it onto Show My Homework so your teacher can mark it, or if you prefer to take a photo and email it directly to your teacher, all of our emails are on Show My Homework. If you've got any questions, obviously come either straight to me or to your teacher. But Year 7, I really look forward to marking all of your work and looking at your work on monks and nuns. And next week's lesson is going to be a 2-week task, okay? So I'm going to give you the first part next week and the second part the week after. Thanks very much, Year 7. Let the history department know if you need anything.